Now, we do have, just for everyone watching straight away, a guest coming. So stay tuned. Just running a little late. But it is Thursday. It is 9, so it's UK Cowboys time. How we doing, Mr. Lonius Maximus?
Doing not too bad. Slowly getting over the disappointment and putting it all behind us and starting to look forward. So, just as well, the Packers got knocked out last week, and hopefully the Lions do a number this week. So,
now you see, I want the Lions to go. This is more for selfish reasons. I want the Lions to go to the Super Bowl, win the NFC Championship, only because I don't want the 49ers to get to 6 Super Bowls before the Cowboys do.
Exactly. Agreed. Yeah. And now if they're going to go and lose again, like they did against the Chiefs a couple of years ago, that's fine by me, and they lost they lost a couple of years or before that with Kaepernick as well. So
yes.
That would even the records at 8 appearances and only 5 wins. So
yeah, we're just going for selfish reasons right now.
Yeah, yep, definitely.
Yeah. But hey, that's the world we live in. And I got to be honest with you, when the Cowboys played the 49ers, I took a heavy trolling from that fan base, or from those fans. It was, some of it was getting a little personal, but I mean, you know me, I just like, yeah, whatever. Skin of a rhino.
I know.
Say. Yeah,
but I mean, obviously, you've got the Cowboys ties with Dan Campbell as well. Obviously, he was here when Jason Witten was drafted. Parcells guy as well. So
yeah,
and developed that. And I mean, I think for all that Hard Knocks is maligned, it's actually paints these guys in a fairly good light. And he actually had a lot of people becoming Lions fans because of the whole Dan Campbell experience, as it were. So
experience. I like the way you put that. But we did as well. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. We dropped a little teaser about 2025. So go onto our Twitter, or if you're in our Facebook group, go check it out, or on Instagram. Just go take a look. You might be, you'll be, So there will be more news on that after the Super Bowl. We're just dropping that in. Spirit's a little low right now, I think, Lorne. So we just thought, chuck that out there and try and get some of those spirits back up a little bit. Try and get everyone a little happier. But there is one thing that makes a lot of fans a lot happier, is the Dallas Cowboys team getting better. And one way the team gets better is through the draft. So here we are. How do you feel about getting to this now that we're on the draft shows, Lorne?
I'm ready to go. I feel I'm getting underway with my draft prep. I know I'm not as clued up as you are, but I'm starting to read a lot of articles. This is probably the first year, because of the whole not being coverage on BT Sport or anything like that, and it wasn't picked up by Sky until later on. I'm probably a lot further behind than I normally am. But I'm ready to start learning up on these players, listening to as much as I can, so that I'm ready to go as and when April comes along. So,
well, I've pretty much done. I spent 3 days just looking at quarterbacks, And I also spent too much time looking at offensive linemen because me and Paul were talking about it. And offensive linemen watching tape on, if you watch too much of it, you start to go cross-eyed.
Yeah.
Because it's just like the motion, and because you're trying to look down on it and you're trying to get different angles, that it makes your eyes go all wonky. So I had to stop doing quarterbacks, but I'm happy because I think I've got enough. I've looked at 20. I'm like, there's not going to be 20 quarterbacks drafted. So
yeah. And quite frankly, at the moment, we're probably not in the market for a quarterback. So,
no. Well, I mean, when we get our guests, come on, what we're going to go through tonight, and I thought this would be a way to start the draft series off. Is before we decide who we think the Cowboys should draft, we need to look at the Cowboys roster and decide what positions they need to draft. Everyone at the moment is very inclined to say linebacker, offensive line.
yeah.
These seem to be the main ones, defensive line. But we'll go through it position by position and we'll break it down over the next hour. And we'll just decide then from that going forward what we'll be looking at. Now, in the series, we're going to do everything. On a Tuesdays, we come back as well, guys. We do Project Prospect where we take very specific names. So we take 6 names, dive deep into them, look at them, do the scouting reports, read into them, go through their injury history, any red flags, go through that. So that's on a Tuesday. It's not for everybody because it does go deep and it does get quite intense, but you can comment along and talk to us and give us your thoughts and comments. Same with these shows. It's kind of a little bit of everything where we go through everything on the draft all the way up into the draft and during the draft as well. But we won't be doing a 24-hour show during the draft. We won't be doing that.
Definitely not. Don't think I could handle it now.
Mate, I will say one thing when we did that 24-hour show. It went faster than I thought.
It did. I mean, we had enough people dropping in and out that it wasn't just you, me, and the guys chatting away and trying to fill time. The fact that we had so many people dropping in just made it go quite quickly. So
it was a hell of a guest list, mind.
It was.
There's like literally nobody left in like Cowboys media that could join us. But talking of Cowboys media, we've got the GOAT of Cowboys media. We got Mr. Cal Yeomans joining us. How we doing, sir?
Man, I don't know if I deserve the GOAT title just yet, gentlemen. I feel like I've got a long way to go for that one, guys.
Well, you're the GOAT to us.
Oh, well, I appreciate it.
Definitely.
What's going on? Y'all doing all right?
Yeah, we're in the middle of a storm. All the roads are like rivers right now. And I may or may not be here for the entire hour, or the power may all go off. Who knows?
Huh.
One of those nights.
Yeah, who knows? Goodness.
I like to live dangerously. It's the James Bond effect, I think, Carl.
That's what it is.
On the plus side, the temperatures are starting to rise again over here. So certainly wasn't as bad over here as Graham and his dad had it when they went across for the wild card game. But
oh man, yeah, it was nice and cold for a little bit, and I mean we've had some rain ourselves the last couple of days. I feel like it hasn't stopped raining. I was in Alabama last night. I did a college basketball game, and whenever I was down there, it just rained all day long. I didn't have any time. I was going to go and explore the football stadium and kind of get a nice look of the Crimson Tide and all the history there. And I barely got out of the car and like took a picture or two and then got back in because it was raining throughout. So yeah, I'm sure you guys have gotten a little bit of it as well because we've had to deal with it on stateside as the last couple of weeks have gone by.
Yeah, I think the weather's kind of like just the metaphor for the Cowboys' mood right now.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, like, was it like in Frisco? I know, like, obviously, the last time when we came and seen you when you were in Frisco, it was all smiles and everyone's happy. Is it still like that in Frisco right now, or a little bit more subdued?
I mean, from a media standpoint, we're all happy. I mean, from a media side, because we love what we do. But from a content standpoint, no. I mean, I don't think anybody's happy right now. It was a disappointing end to an otherwise stellar season is kind of the best way to put it. I mean, this is a team that set themselves up so well for everything. I mean, They won the division. They got to that 2 seed. They continued to build in the right direction and looked like they were moving well. And it came to a screeching halt. And I think, I mean, you got to give credit to where credit is due to Green Bay, right? I mean, Green Bay came in with a great game plan and they executed, and Dallas just wasn't ready for it. And I think that's where the frustration lies. Is it looked like Dallas was ready for a challenge like that, and that nothing would surprise them. And sure enough, it all surprised them. That was it was a pretty wild card round, and something that I think Cowboys fans will remember for a long time in a not so good way.
Yeah, I was on a show the next day after it over in America, and he said, "Well, how do you feel?" I said, "I feel like I met a very beautiful woman who decided at the last minute to cheat on me with a person from Wisconsin." And they were all like, "Okay,
Wow.
yeah, we see where you go in there." And I was like, "Very specifically Wisconsin." I was like, "Very specifically Wisconsin, yeah."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Green Bay, parts of Wisconsin, right? Like cheese curds, cheese heads, and brews up there. I mean, that's what it ended up being. Yeah, I mean, oh man, I feel like even now it's less of a disappointment and an anger, and more of just a pure man, like just a sigh of what just happened. Yeah, stunned. I mean, we were stunned initially too. I remember waking up the next day and I tweeted it out. I was like, was this a dream? I mean, was this real? It feels like it shouldn't be, but it was. And what a wild couple of weeks. I mean, since then, you still don't really know who your defensive coordinator is going to be.
Yeah.
You know who your head coach is, but you don't really know how that's going to work in the future as well. So certainly interesting times on the way in Dallas.
That's a nice way to put it. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, because you talk about tweet. I put a tweet when I woke up the next day, and I put on there, it was like, I'm still trying to figure out how a team with no Pro Bowl players beat a team with like 9 All-Pro team and 7 Pro Bowl players. Like, how does that happen? And everyone's just like, yeah, good point. You're like, I don't know. I don't know how that works.
And I think that's where a lot of the frustration goes to the coaching staff, right? I mean, that's where you look at Mike McCarthy and Dan Quinn and say, hey, you guys really talked so highly of the setup and so highly of playing at home. I mean, you had won 16 straight at home. You had really been phenomenal at AT&T Stadium. And so not only to have a letdown period, but to have a extreme wheels falling off the bus scenario like they did have, I think added to it. And that's where the frustration lies. And I don't blame Cowboys fans. I really don't. I'm not going to try and sit here and sell hope. I also don't think you should give up on this team. I think this team still is really good, and there's a lot of roster pieces that you should be excited about. But man, this one's going to hurt, and it's going to hurt for a little while, at least until really next playoffs and until you make it back to an NFC title game. I think every time you don't get there, it's going to hurt a little bit. And you're starting to see, I mean, Detroit is a great example. The Lions are on their way to an NFC title game. I mean, first time in 30, 40 years almost that they've been to an NFC title game. So now you're starting to see those fans and so much relief and so much joy start to radiate amongst the city. And that'll continue if they even make it to a Super Bowl. So I think it's going to be the same kind of thing. Not to compare the Cowboys to the Lions, but the Lions have been to an NFC championship game now, and the Cowboys haven't.
Yeah. But that was something that funnily enough, I wrote about, and I didn't predict. But the thing I said is, somebody asked, and I wrote it in an article about, like, why does this keep happening to the Cowboys? And the real answer really is, I don't know. Nobody really understands why it happens. But I was like, the only thing I can really think of is that it's before Dak and Mike McCarthy's time, that this is a giant monkey that's on the Cowboys' back. And with each season, when they go to the playoffs and they bounce straight out, that monkey just grows a little bigger, gets a little heavier, just puts more pressure on that team's back. And what happens is, as that has grown over time, it gets harder for them to try and win a game. But exactly what I said is that you see the same thing in the lines, but what will happen is you just need to shake that monkey off your back. And the only way to shake the monkey off the back is to start winning games. Because when you think about the Lions team this year, they've had better teams. They've had better rosters. Like when you think like with Megatron and Matt Stafford and the defenses that they had and Dominican Sue, you look at those rosters they've had, they've been better in the past. But yet they're going deeper in the playoffs than they ever have. And the only reason I can think they can contribute to that is that they've shaken the monkey off their back. The pressure's off. So now they're going into this NFC championship with Detroit behind them already as champions. As far as they're concerned, you are champions already. So they're going to play like champions. And I think with Dallas, it's going to be the similar scenario that they're going to win a wild card game. Then they're going to get to the divisional round and they're going to win that game. And then it turns into a snow. So like the pressure is almost the reverse, that the pressure comes off them because they've won games, as opposed to they're going deeper in the playoffs, so the pressure gets harder.
Yeah, and a lot of times you need a complete fallout before you reach that point. And that's why, I mean, I said it a moment ago, I'm not here to sell hope for the most part. And I saw this question, right Andrew. My draft guide will come out in March, middle of March, right around like spring break time is when the draft guide will drop. But the thing with selling hope now is the fact that you've had the embarrassment. I mean, the embarrassment's there. You had an absolute awful outing. You really were upended by Green Bay in a way that you shouldn't have been. I mean, where is the lowest you can go? Sure, you can miss the playoffs, but I mean, there's 30 plus teams, 36 teams that miss the playoffs every single year, right? I mean, there's not 36, but like, you know what I mean?
I'm with you.
Yeah. There's a ton of teams that miss the playoffs every year. When you go into a situation like that, and I understand it builds. I mean, you haven't been to an NFC title game in 28 years. It's going to build. But you needed the complete embarrassment to the point where you can't hide from the pressure anymore. That fourth wall has been put up, and the Cowboys have protected themselves and distanced themselves from talking about the drought and talking about getting back to an NFC championship game. I think now it's time to embrace it. That's what Detroit did. Detroit embraced the failure of what they had for 30 years. They embraced the fact that we've had the downs. We haven't played well. We haven't had the playoff success. And guess what? Take that and shove it. I mean, that's ultimately what they did. They said, forget all that. Right. We're going to rally and we're going to go. Dallas hasn't done that. For the most part, they're saying, hey, it's not our fault that this drought is there. That's from the teams of the past. I mean, only we can do is worry about ourselves. Well, now maybe you should embrace the failure. Maybe you should embrace what just happened in Green Bay and build off of that and rally from that. I don't know if that's the mindset that Mike McCarthy and the staff are taking. I don't know if that's the mindset that Dak Prescott is taking, but it's something different. Like you said, you're searching for an answer of why is this happening? And it's certainly not any of the answers you've had for 27 years. So you might as well look somewhere different. And maybe one way of doing that is breaking down that protective wall between the pressure and the Cowboys and trying to find a bit of a middle ground for some extra motivation going into an offseason. That's going to be crucial for this team.
Yeah.
I always worry as well when we go to the playoffs, and you know the marketing side of Jerry. You get the finish the fight T-shirts, the Carpe Omnia T-shirts, and everything like that. And you know, obviously, you guys do it as well. When there was all the finish the fight videos a couple of years ago when Kent Garrison was there, and you know, you get everybody built up on that, you know, and then it just we've dropped out of consideration too early in the playoffs and everything like that. But for me, the fact that we're at least keeping McCarthy for another year, this going back to the playoffs every single year is beneficial to us, because as long as you're learning from this, and the core strength of the team understands the disappointment of sitting at home when they know that they should be playing the next week, that should build them, and that they should learn lessons from it. You know, and hopefully, you know, there does seem to be some sort of mental block for Dak at the moment. Maybe there's something that he can work on try and clear his head a little bit better. CD Lamb as well. I mean, obviously those two weren't on the same page as well. And I think just, as much as everything else in the playoffs, you just need one or two lucky plays. I mean, the game changed when Deron Bland was on that first drive of Green Bay, where Deron Bland was flagged for holding or pass interference. I can't remember what it was. And that kept the Packers on the field, and they marched down and scored. If we'd managed to get them off there, might have been a completely different game, and the pressure wouldn't have been on Dak to do everything. But going back year after year is a lot better than back when we had Jason Garrett, and you were, one season you were in the playoffs, the next season you were middle of the pack or out of the playoffs or whatever, and then you're back and forth.
Yeah. I think there's a benefit to keeping McCarthy for a number of reasons, but I think one of them is the fact that you have had success. You do know what you're getting in the regular season, and I mean, if you're looking for any level of consistency, 3 12-5 win seasons is pretty darn consistent all the way through. So you know what you're getting, and a lot of the argument now is, okay, you can do it in the regular season, but you can't do it in the playoffs. And sure, that's exactly what the record says. You are what your record says you are, and you're 1-3 in the postseason under Mike McCarthy in the playoffs. So I think there's an element to that, but in order to get another shot at it, you have to play well in the regular season. You have to build to that point and set yourself up in the exact same way that you had this year. And so I think there's a benefit for having Mike back, and he's got to do some soul searching too. And he
Definitely.
addressed it a little bit. He had addressed it a little bit in his postseason press conference of, hey, we got to find out what went wrong, and whether that was from a coaching staff standpoint, a game plan standpoint, a scouting standpoint, player personnel, mindset, jinxes. I don't know. Maybe somebody stepped on the line when they shouldn't have stepped on the line. I don't really know. But there's ways that you can get better going into this offseason, and that's where it turns. And this one's going to hurt. Like I said, it hurts for Cowboys fans. It definitely hurts for some of these players. I mean, think about Zach Martin, for instance. He's entering year number 14 of his career. I mean, he's not going to get a ton of shots at this, especially playing at the level that he's played at throughout his career. He's not going to play at that high of a level all the way through. And so now he's looking at limited options to finally make a run, finally win some games, finally get over the hump. And whether that's an NFC title game, they're not going to be satisfied with NFC title game appearances. They want to get to the Super Bowl. They want to win the Super Bowl. That's the ultimate goal. But like I said, maybe now it's time to embrace the pressure. Instead of running from the pressure, embrace it. And I think that's the best way you're going to have success in the future is by not shying away from the elements and the pressure that the star brings upon you, and instead say, hey, I don't care who it is. We're the Dallas Cowboys, and we got to go win football games. That's the bottom line.
And it's ironic you say that, because when you look at the regular season, you look at the games when they've been the underdog, they come out with a different mindset. They come out and they attack straight away. I know there's games where they were the favorite to win and the pressure's on them, like Giants and Washington, divisional games, But again, you see when the pressure's on them to have to go and win, like Arizona, and they crumble again. You see it with them. And I agree with you that they should just embrace what it is and what they are and what that really is. And just go for it.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I think there's also
it,
the element. It's not just about a mindset either. This team wasn't good enough. They weren't big enough. They weren't deep enough, and they had some injuries in the defensive side. Leighton Vander Esch, Stephon Gilmore, Trayvon Diggs, that played a factor, and I think that certainly comes into play. But you've got to build your team. Yeah, exactly, especially a linebacker. You've got to build your team with that in mind of, okay, we can't just fix this with a mindset. That's not the only thing here. You got to fix it with your roster, too. Your roster wasn't good enough to win that football game. Your roster wasn't good enough to make a run in the playoffs. Look at Green Bay. Green Bay, like you said, 0 Pro Bowlers. They had a mindset the right way to go into AT&T Stadium and take care of business. They had that same mindset against the 49ers. They played well against San Francisco, but the roster of the Niners prevailed. So you've got to be better. You've got to be better from a on paper standpoint. You got to be better from a mindset standpoint. And that's why when people are looking for answers, I don't think you can look in one area. You're not going to point straight at Mike McCarthy and say he's the problem, or right at Dak Prescott and say he's the problem. It's a little bit of everyone. Everybody deserves a bit of this, and everybody's going to have to play a part in the fix as well.
When we talk blame, right, here's one for you that's cropping up a little bit lately that seems to be hitting my feeds and comments, because I've been going the other way, Kyle. I've been trying to write stuff on positivity. In fact, my latest use is called Reasons to be Positive, and I get a lot of, what can we call it, swear words, but profanities, but anyway, yeah, you know, you get quite a lot of that, but hey, roll with it. But like, one of the things that people do comment on is when they say, oh, well, a reason to be negative, that comes up a lot is Stephen Jones. And I think because Jerry Jones has taken the step back and he seems to be the guy in the front line, do you think some of these decisions, like the decision to keep Mike McCarthy, is like the similar thing we seen with Jason Garrett? Everyone was saying Jason Garrett needs to go. And they were like, no, we're going to give him another chance. We're going to give him another year. You see it again with Mike McCarthy. Then you see the same sort of, and it's not a bad idea, the way that they go about doing their roster and then trying to build through the draft, and how they always draft and how they draft in the first round. And they never draft safeties. But is that something that's coming from Stephen Jones? Do you think that that's the front, the guy who's at the front of it all, or do you think that's unfair?
I think it's a little bit unfair. I think Steven gets a really good say in it. And I mean, in the conversations we've always had, he's in lockstep with what Jerry wants, with what Will McClay wants, and a lot of times with what Mike McCarthy wants. You can bring up the Garrett years all that you want in a scenario like this, but I mean, you got to call a spade. Jason Garrett never won those 12 games in back-to-back seasons. That hasn't happened. And sure, he had some really good teams. Don't get me wrong. I mean, 2007, 2014, those were legitimate contenders. 2016, they were really, really good until the Des Cottick game happened and Mike McCarthy had success against you in the playoffs. And so I think yes, you can compare this to the Jason Garrett years in terms of playoff success, but Jason hasn't had the continued consistency that Mike McCarthy has had at his point at the helm. So I get that there's a minor comparison there, but you can't compare them. They're apples and oranges in a certain extent. Oh, as far as Steven goes, it kind of goes back to what it turns into with the quarterback, the head coach, and Jerry Jones, is the fact that you're going to get the blame when things go wrong, and you're going to get the praises when things go right, and maybe you should find a little bit of a middle ground. They aren't the only reason that things are going right.
Yeah.
Certainly aren't the only reason that things went wrong. And so I think part of why there's so much expectation and so much excitement around this roster right now is because of what Stephen Jones has done and what they have done to build this roster. Stephon Gilmore and Brandon Cooks, in my opinion, that was a Stephen Jones move more than anything. That's going and finding value and massaging your draft board to present guys that give you a better chance to win football games immediately than a 5th-round pick and a 6th-round pick would. And that's exactly what happened. I mean, sure, you don't have a ton of draft capital in the middle of your draft board right now. You'll get some comp picks back, hopefully a 5th and a 6th. Yeah, you'll at least get 2. It's expected to be 2 6th, but you could get as high as a 5th. And I think, I mean, even then, you're talking about a neutral thing that now Cooks and Gilmore have given you a lot out of those spots. So I think you should give some credit as Cowboys fans to Stephen Jones on what he has built. Is he the reason that they came up short? No, but is he also hands clean in the reason that they came up short? Probably not either. I think there's still different ways that they could have been more aggressive. They could have added more talent. And I think that might be going into their mindset into the offseason. Everything that I've heard, which hasn't been a lot since that final whistle sounded at AT&T Stadium, but a little bit here and there, I think they will be aggressive, and I think they understand that this
go.
is really the window is closing, and they got to go make something happen.
Well, here's a perfect question that you can both answer. I don't answer the questions. I stay away from them. I lead you into it all. So,
It
Steve,
sounds like me on the draft show this morning.
See,
we had
I'm
Dane
not.
Brugler on. I said like 12 words, and I was totally okay with it.
Yeah, Steve, that's the way to do it, mate. That's why it's good to be the host. You just sit there and let everyone rattle off.
Yeah, let them all go.
Yeah, but Steve asked this very question: is that do you think that Jerry, Steve, front office, they break that habit? And I say they say break a habit of a lifetime. You've already proven it's not a habit of a lifetime with what they've done, and even the year before they did. All right, they weren't as big of moves as these were, but do you think that they're going to go into free agency and really push for this? Obviously, as well as the draft as well.
Lauren, I'll let you start this one off.
Ooh.
I don't see it, to be honest. I mean, the whole the whole thing is that the last time the Cowboys were going to Super Bowls, they were obviously paying Dion, they were bringing guys in, but that was a whole different NFL because there was no salary cap. There was, and bringing Dion in, we brought him in at the beginning of the salary cap, and then we ended up going through the Quincy Carter years because of problems with the salary cap. We were hamstrung by all the deals that we'd paid out to Troy, to Emmett, to Michael, and then obviously their untimely playing career demise, at least. I think Jerry has always been that he would rather go to the playoffs year in, year out. There's a lot of people and a lot of talk shows at the moment that are saying, what would you rather do? Would you rather win a Super Bowl and then not do anything for 8 years while you rebuild again? Personally, I would rather be in the playoffs every year, sort of much like Mike Tomlin at the Steelers or whatever. Yeah. But, once you're in the playoffs, something can, again, as I say, a little bit of luck goes your way and you can progress. And again, as you say, Mike, you build on that and the team becomes cohesive and what have you, and allows you to steamroll through the playoffs to get to the Super Bowl. I don't know that, I don't think I could handle, especially the way everybody hates, everybody that isn't a Dallas Cowboys fan loves to hate the Dallas Cowboys. Mm-hmm. I don't think you could go through 8 years of, being irrelevant and the amount of stick that you get for that. The amount of stick you get when they lose as a winner anyway is bad, but, 8 years of being the Lions as they were, there's a lot of fans that would certainly. I don't know. I certainly would rather be relevant every year.
Yeah, from a media standpoint, of course, being relevant every year makes my job significantly easier, and I think you guys are probably in a similar boat. As a Cowboys fan growing up, and as somebody that's tired of seeing fans unhappy, I want the Super Bowl. I mean, I would do anything and everything in my power to go win that ring. And I want that for the guys too. I want it for Dak. Mm-hmm. I want it for Zach Martin. I mean, look at the way that the narrative changed for Matthew Stafford when he went and won the Super Bowl with LA. Look at the way that the status is changing currently for Jared Goff. I mean, Jared Goff was looking as a number one bust. Another number one overall pick bust, or maybe not a bust, but just a decent.
No, you could say, I would agree with you on that statement.
I mean, he never lived up to the incredible hype that was there, but hey, he's got a chance to really right those wrongs now too. I want it for those guys. I want them to go win in Super Bowl, and I think the one thing that just feels different, and maybe it won't turn into anything different. I'm in a bit of a case of a believe it until, or let me see it to believe it sort of scenario whenever it comes to free agency and pushing all in and going and getting and being aggressive to all these talented players. I want to see it first before I really say it's going to happen. But I'm telling you, just from being in the building, this feels a little bit different. This feels like this one stung a little bit more. Jerry said it, Steven said it, Mike said it. They've all kind of talked about it as this one just felt like it was different because you had everything at your fingertips and you let it slip. And not only did you let it slip, you just fumbled it. It's almost like you threw it into a river. It's just like a complete dismantling. So now, and I mentioned soul searching for Mike McCarthy. I think there has been that from the front office. I think Jerry and Steven have already had conversations of, man, maybe we should be aggressive. Maybe we should go do something here. And they've got some cap space. They also have 19 free agents, but you're not hearing the same "we like our guys" comment.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You've heard that for years. You've heard, "Hey, we like our guys. Our first priority is bringing these guys back."
Yeah,
That's
I've
not
noticed there's
really
been none of that.
That's not the conversation. Tyron Smith is all right. So Tyron has had a great career here. We'll see if he goes elsewhere. Tony Pollard, I mean, we're definitely not paying him anywhere close to probably the value he would have gotten last year. Where is he going to land? It feels different this time around. Does that mean it will be different? No. And we'll talk to Jerry at the Senior Bowl. We'll hear what he has to say in terms of roster building there. Steven, same thing. We'll try and get him on the draft show a couple times and see what's going on there. But man, I think there's names out there running back wise. Derrick Henry is one that's soon to be on the open market. I think Kareem Hunt's out there too. That's a name. I mean, they can go get some guys. They really could. And linebackers across the NFL, you need like 7 of them. Sorry, I've got the hiccups. You need like 7 of them. But I just think there's ways that this roster can get better, and I think they're going to try and exhaust those options outside of maybe the norm that it has been in the past.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a few bits that were confusing to me. And but some of the bits that were confusing to me in the offseason, I was kind of like, ooh, tight end is iffy. Turns out one of the most elite guys in his position came out from that idea. But what I thought we'd do, we'll go through it and tell me if you think the Cowboys need to draft heavily in these positions, right? In this year's draft, okay? And we're going to start with the most controversial one, and we'll start from the top, quarterback. Because Cowboys Nation are very much split on it. You would think like that, Dak, he was on, especially the tail end of the season, he's on this going off for this career high, leads the league, in passing touchdowns. They're talking about him MVP. They're talking offensive player of the year. They're talking all of these accolades. And yet, just from one game in the playoffs, people are like, yeah, we need to move on from Dak. But do you know what I mean? Yeah, it's one game. And I've said the same thing. But you'd be surprised the sort of comments you get back if you defend Dak right now. But do the Cowboys need to draft a quarterback, or do they need to change him for Trey Lance? I can't believe I asked that question.
Well, no, I think it's valid. You spent your 4th round pick on a quarterback this year. I mean, that's plain and simple. You've done that. You've gotten your guy. He's still young. He's 23 years old. I mean, he's been in the NFL for 4 seasons now. You've got your quarterback in the wings, waiting for if Dak is restructured or extended, which I think is on the horizon itself. You're going to keep 4. There's a no trade clause, so you can't trade him. I can't tell you how many Cowboys fans. I grew up in Texas, so a lot of my friends are Cowboys fans, and a lot of my friends' parents that I grew up with are all Cowboys fans too. I can't tell you how many times I've seen, let's just trade Dak Prescott. Like, that doesn't work like that, guys. Sorry, it's not going to happen.
And no tag deal as well.
Nor would you want it to happen either. So no, I don't think they draft quarterback this year. You might sign one of these undrafted free agents. It is a deep quarterback class. You've got some guys that are legitimate. So maybe guys that go undrafted, you bring a couple guys in for camp bodies just to see what they bring. And outside of that, I think Trey Lance is your backup quarterback of the future. I think he's your guy, and that's something that they spent a 4th round pick on, and you would love to have that 4th round pick right now. So he's not going anywhere anytime soon.
Here's a little insider for you as well, Cal, you can take with you. Do you know we spoke with, and Lorne will tell you this, we spoke with Trey Lance's trainer. The guy who was, and he was saying that from when he came into the building, how he is now, his passing has come on a lot.
Sure. Yeah, a lot of those a lot of those pregame workouts and some of the post practice stuff that he's been doing with Schottenheimer it's been beneficial to him, and I think he's learned a lot from Dak too. I mean, look at what Jordan
You
Love
can
did.
imagine.
Yeah, look at what Jordan Love did in sitting for a couple years behind Aaron Rodgers. Not to say Trey Lance has to sit for 4 years before he gets an opportunity, but he might. I mean, and either that or he's going to be traded and maybe he gets an opportunity elsewhere. But he's a better player now, and I'd be confident in saying this. He's a better player now than he was when he came in. And I mean, I think that's plain and simple. He's sitting there, he's learning, he's accepted his role, which is a lot of
it's important.
A lot of the key with quarterbacks nowadays. I mean, you see with like Zach Wilson in New York, if you don't necessarily accept your role initially, it could provide problems. And he's accepted it. And I think he's here to learn. And
Josh Rosen's a good example of that.
Yeah, it's a good one too. Yeah, great one. And I think he's learning and building. And that's something that I think will pay off for the Cowboys. If it pays off, whether it's him playing quarterback, that's one thing. If it plays off with him down the road and he's traded or signed somewhere else, I think it's something that could be beneficial.
This one is nothing else as well. He's also had another year to rehab that injury that obviously caused him it caused Brock Purdy and Garoppolo to usurp him at the 49ers. So so he should be ready to hit the ground running this training camp. So
definitely, yeah. I think that's Cooper Rush sort of moving down the pecking order and out the building, I think. So, but this one is less controversial. Running back seems pretty simple, really, doesn't it?
Yeah, go draft a guy. This is a good running back class from rounds 3 to 6. Like, I mean, you've got names all the way through there that I feel really confident in. It was a better running back class. It was a more top-heavy running back class last year because you had guys in the first and second rounds that you could really enjoy. I don't think you have those names as much this year. I mean, Dane Brugler said it today. We may not have a running back taken in the top 50 this year, which would only be the second time ever. And so I think there's a chance that Dallas could strike there. And maybe if you trade back from 24th overall, you trade out of that spot and you have a pool of names that you really like. You go back 5 or 6 spots, you pick up a third-round pick, and all of a sudden there's your running back, and you can take him in the third or in the fourth if that's the case, and then you're cooking with gas. So yeah, I think you add at running back. I wouldn't mind bringing Tony Pollard back. I know a lot of Cowboys fans have moved on from TP and they're done with him, and they think he's washed and yada yada yada. I've heard a little bit of everything these last couple of weeks, if you couldn't tell. But I think with Tony specifically, if you bring him back on a deal, a fraction of what he was paid as a franchise tag, why not? I mean, he's a capable running back. He had 1,000 yards in a year where he really wasn't as efficient as he should have been. And so maybe with that, you get him back on a 2-year deal, 3-year deal. I don't think his party would want to do anything more than a 2 or 3-year deal. And you bring him back for $5 million, $6 million a year, and then all of a sudden you've got a capable running back, and you can draft and add to it in the draft with the rookie class. So I don't think it's out of the question that Tony Pollard returns, but it just depends on what his market value looks like outside of Dallas first.
I think when I've checked, his value is down at 6.6 per year.
See, 6.6 sounds like a lot, but I think I would take 6.1 too. I mean, something in there.
6 on the nose,
make it work.
Yeah.
Because you've seen his limitations. I think this year you saw his limitations, that he's limited and what his limitations are. And if you try and push him beyond that, the bit then that made him special when he was with Zeke, that goes away too. So it's like the double-edged sword.
Yeah, you go get a physical back. Go get a Blake Corum from Michigan or a Schrader from Mizzou. I mean, go get somebody that's going to run in between the tackles a little bit and really be a bruiser of a running back. Doesn't have to break the big play. They can if they want to. That's why I think last year adding like a Zach Charbonnet, who ended up at Seattle, who was a UCLA product, I think he would have been a perfect addition to that backfield.
Yeah.
Not the case. And so maybe, if you can bring back Tony Pollard for $5 million, I'd be totally fine. I see the comment down there that says I wouldn't pay him anything over 3. That's ridiculous. Somebody's going to pay him over 3. I mean, somebody's going to do it. and he has too many skins on the wall from previous seasons and too much home run hitting ability in previous seasons for him to get paid anything less than $3 million. If you can get him for 5 or 6, boom, bring him back and see what you can do. I would be reluctant to say, hey, let's let him walk for $3 million elsewhere. And then he goes to the New York Jets and he's blowing up secondaries and he's all the way back into hitting home run balls. I would hate that. I really would as a Cowboys fan.
I'd certainly offer him a contract and say, that's there, but you're welcome to go and test the market. And, if somebody snaps you up to a crazy deal, then fair enough. But if not, you've got this to come back to.
I wouldn't pay anything over 7 for him. That's kind of my number right now. It's even like 6.5 seems like it's pushing it for me. But make it work under that, and I think we can make it happen.
Because they should use him just like how he was in college, I think, and they're not doing that enough. But because they're trying to make him or certainly what it was last season as this 3-down back, you take away then the options of drifting him out to the slot and catching balls because he can do it. You've seen him do it. He's able to do it. And I just find it madness. But here's the next one: wide receiver, and I quite like this idea, and there's a big reason for it. Is I think Michael Gallup and Brandon Cooks are both chewing up quite a lot of the cap. And you talked about the cap earlier. And I was looking, you can release close to 20 million if you make them post one cut. And then you go into the draft and draft something in the wide receiver core, not to fill those guys, but as a support weapon for CeeDee Lamb. Because I'm more worried about how this offense looks next season with teams knowing that the offense is going to be funneled through Lamb. I want the offense to be able to move beyond that. Because, let's be fair, Michael Gallup, there's something wrong there. I think it's mentally and physically. And Brandon Cooks is aging. And he was a little bit underwhelming in some parts. And look at the wild card game. I'm not saying Brandon Cooks was at fault for what happened. But when CeeDee Lamb disappeared, we asked Brandon Cooks to be the next guy. And he came away with, I think, 47 yards during that game. So you've seen him in the support role and fail a little bit. The whole game was a failure, so that's a little unfair. But do you know what I mean? You've seen it. So I just think drafting a wide receiver quite high could be a very good option for this offense. There's a lot to take away there, Kyle.
Yeah, I think I disagree. I think the reason, drafting wide receiver high sounds great anytime because, all these young wide receivers are having awesome rookie, first year, second year campaigns, and it's been great. But your first, second, third round picks are going to be tied up elsewhere. You're going to go get an offensive lineman or two. You're going to go get a defensive lineman. You're going to go get a linebacker. You need a corner depth. I think wide receiver would be very low on the list in terms of early draft picks. Could you pick up somebody in the 5th, 6th, 7th round? Sure, absolutely. You took a flyer on Jalen Brooks last year, and I think he overachieved in his draft position. He made the team. He was active a couple times. He was an impact player on special teams more than once. And I think there's ways that you can maybe take a flyer on a guy. But for the most part, wide receiver is not going to be high on the list for me. I think they've got enough there where they'll bring back Brandon Cooks. I think Michael Gallup's played in his last game as a Cowboy, in my opinion, just because of the contract situation and where his value stands. I think Dallas would probably move on from Gallup. But I could have told you that last offseason. That's not anything new. That's just that's just the way the contract was developed. And I love MG. I really do. And I hope he lands somewhere great. But in terms of Jalen Tolbert has stepped up. Brandon Cooks, like you said, maybe underwhelming from a statistical standpoint, but he was great in the red zone, especially late in the year. You used him in the red zone quite a bit. He was a crucial option there. You have Jalen Brooks as a guy that you trust. And you've had some good success, too, of picking up undrafted guys that have played factors, Martavis Bryant and some Jalen Cropper in the offseason. You've got ways to build your wide receiving core without taking high draft picks and putting resources that direction early on.
Yeah, I think if you're getting rid of Michael Gallup, and obviously that's going to have to be a June 1st, because at the moment you'd be I think you're only saving 800,000 if you do it pre-June 1st.
Yeah.
But I think you've still got to have that sort of veteran leadership that you have with Brandon Cooks. And Brandon Cooks, there was nothing until after probably the Chargers game was where he and Dak started to get on the page. He made that crucial catch on the final final drive or so to keep that going. And from that point on, it sort of took off. And the wheels came off in the playoffs. And strangely, Michael Gallup was the only one that seemed to be catching passes for most of the game.
Become the hero. Yeah.
But Jalen Tolbert, I was very impressed with this season. He seems to come on. The fact that you got snaps for Jalen Brooks as well, and he made some difficult catches as well, shows that he wasn't one of these highlight player or practice players who fades under the spotlight or whatever. Moreno Cropper, as you say, we've signed him to a futures deal.
He's sneaky.
He was lighting up camp as well, and we were saying in training camp that you had something like 13 receivers and only 6 slots. How were you going to knock it down?
Cut it down.
If you get that competition again, and yes, use a 5th, 6th, 7th round pick on something like that, but I don't think it needs to be a 1st or 2nd day 1 or day 2 pick.
I can really put an onion in the ointment in that narrative, mine, and say the Cowboys already did that when they got CeeDee Lamb. We say they will never take an early pick. Well, CeeDee Lamb dropped them at 17 when they had Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup, who just had 1,000-yard seasons the year before.
That was also when they had a much younger Zach Martin and a much younger Tyron Smith. And they had some guys.
Still had I was able to come back on the other line.
I'm just saying. I think that was a different. You had Ezekiel Elliott who was still playing at a high level. You had a young Dak Prescott. I mean,
yours is the onion in the ointment to my onion in the ointment.
Trust me. I mean, that was the summer of 40 burgers. That's what that was. I mean, we were taking our masks off to eat 40 burgers whenever CeeDee Lamb was taken at 17. So. Like you said, crazier things have happened, but I just don't think this is a spot for it.
Yeah. Okay. Tight end. Are we thinking high?
You've invested too much at tight end.
I think so too. Yeah.
You've got Jake Ferguson, who you really liked, and I think Luke Schoonmaker showed some things, but you drafted Luke Schoonmaker to be a big time blocker, and he struggled at that halfway through the year. And I think if he has a full off season, he can adjust the game pace. Maybe he turns into a mauling tight end because then you've got that duo and you can kind of roll with it the rest of the way. You'll get John Stevens back, who showed some promise in training camp and in the preseason. But I think you're pretty set at tight end right now. It's a good tight end class though.
It is.
Second round, third round. Like I said, it's kind of like wide receiver. You've invested in it. You have some players in the building. You might have to move on from some guys at some point. Peyton Hendershot had a really bad year. I think there's ways that you can get better at tight end, but I don't think it'll be in the early parts of the draft.
Yeah, definitely.
Again, I agree. Don't think we make a move on that.
But this one's easy. Offensive line.
First pick, second pick, third pick. I mean, we just revamp the whole thing. That'd be great. We can just go ahead and let's run the damn ball, right? Let's make it happen. Yeah.
That is what they need. Yeah. When we were talking running back, first thing I'm thinking is offensive line first over running back, because we'll get them later on. But let's just go find Tyron Smith's replacement. Or like you see, because like some people say, well, you could go inside offensive line and kick Tyler Smith out. But I think that they won't do that because they had opportunities this season, and the whole time they just went, no, Smith is our guard. He's guard. He's guard. And we went through a whole rotation of different left tackles throughout the year, and that entire. So I think that's telling that they want to keep him at guard no matter the cost, and they will find other ways to fill the left tackle position.
I really just don't think they wanted to go back and forth. I don't think they wanted to go that go guard and tackle within the same season. If they drafted a capable guard, I don't think they would have hesitated to bump Tyler Smith out. I think he would go back to left tackle. The one thing though that you're looking at it, and just the way that this draft is built, you've got a lot of really good centers. This is a loaded offensive tackle class, and then it's not very good at guard. And so you might be doing the same thing to somebody as a rookie that you did to Tyler Smith, where you're moving them inside to guard instead of playing them at tackle immediately like they did in college. So maybe the natural thing is to draft a tackle just because there's more of them. There's more opportunities there in the draft to get it right. And this team's been really, really good at drafting offensive linemen high.
I've always
so I think you pick your guy. If he fits in as a tackle, then congratulations, Tyler Smith. You're an all-pro tackle this year. You're going to be an all-pro tackle in the future too, or all-pro guard in the future too. Yeah. So I think there's a way. I think Jordan Morgan is great. Out of Arizona, he's phenomenal. I know Tyler, Oklahoma guard. I'm blanking on his last name. I'm not as sharp on the draft names yet.
I've done center because I do think Powers, who's the center from Notre Dame, I think he could move out to guard because he did play guard in his freshman year.
He can play guard. But you're going to put him at center. Yeah, I mean, if you're drafting him for the Dallas Cowboys, Tyler Guyton. Yes, thank you, Brian.
Tyler Guyton.
Out of Oklahoma. I think he's a really good player too. But yeah, I think Jackson Powers Johnson. If you're going to draft him, you're putting him at the center spot, and you're gonna just roll. And maybe that's your first round pick and your second round pick. I don't think I would be opposed to it. Yes, you need a linebacker. Yes, you need a running back. And honestly, we're going position by position right now, Mike. The next 5 positions that you name, I could say you could spend a top 3 round pick on. Defensive line, check. Linebacker, absolutely. Corner, you need it. Safety, you need it. I mean, you could spend a legitimate amount of these high picks early on.
But I don't think they'll take a safety high. It just seems to be that's just not the way, you know. So
I like some of these safeties. The one reason I could see them drafting a safety maybe with the 3rd round pick would be if they move on from Jaron Curse.
And I think they will.
If they see a guy that mimics his skill set. Maybe that's the case. Maybe Dan Quinn moves on and they bring in a new defensive coordinator and they try and make something happen. Yeah, they can maybe bring back Jeff Heath off the street.
There's a kicker as well. Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be good. But yeah, I think there's a chance you could draft him in the 3rd, but 1st and 2nd round, it goes back to what we were talking about. You got some holes you got to plug first and safety, even if it means bringing back Jaron Curse, which I don't think is high on the priority list. No. I still think you can maybe find some safeties elsewhere.
Curse really dropped off, I think, this year. And as the year got on a bit too, he had moments where, like the interception late in the season. But I just think that generally what you got him in to do, like it was weird because there's a lot of times, even in the Packers game, and you're watching him trying to cover deep downfield a wide receiver, and it's just that's not him. Do you know what I mean? I don't know why that's happening. Very weird.
I think really as well, if you're talking about drafting a linebacker, then you drop Marquise Bell back into the safety position, and he can take on the role of Jaron Curse. And if you remember back in training camp, he was when Jaron Curse was nursing injury, then Bell was the one that was stepping up. McQuamu as well. You've still got him for another year. See what these guys have got. And then you've got Donovan Wilson. You've got Malik Hooker under contract for the next couple of years. Yes, you can probably still move on with them at not too much damage on the salary cap, but I think you've still got a young core there, if nothing else. And the main thing is that they've actually been able to play this season as well. So they're not. You got some idea of what they're like. And, as I say, Bell was played out of position, but you've got Wanway Thomas, you've got everybody else who have had meaningful snaps. You've got tape on them, and you can determine whether they're a step up or step down from where Curse was last season.
Yeah. It's interesting, and I saw the comment from Brian. I think that's a great take. Edge rusher as
Edge
kind of
is
a sneaky
huge.
Yep.
need.
Yeah.
I think you could go add yourself an edge in this draft, and you've got Micah Parsons. You feel really good about him. You're about to pay him big time. Dorrance Armstrong is getting close into his free agency, and he's been. I mean, he's going to be highly valued, man. He's been
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
So I think you're going to look up and you're going to say, "Oh, where did Demarcus Lawrence and Dorrance Armstrong go? Why is it just Micah Parsons here if you're not careful?" So because Sam Williams hasn't turned into the guy you anticipated him to be, maybe he can get to that point and earn some more snaps, but you just haven't seen it yet. But yeah, I think edge is a sneaky need that's in there too, because you're going to look at defensive tackle, linebacker, corner. I mean, you're going to look at safety, but yeah, nobody's really talking about edge rusher as a need. They could go get themselves an edge rusher and feel really good about that defense still if they can pair somebody with Micah that they can build into the future with.
Yeah.
I just wonder
agree with Edge.
I just wonder with Sam Williams whether the mistakes that he's made this season, is it a result of him not getting playing time, that he's actually trying to say
Maybe.
with those limited snaps, I'm going to make something happen, and unfortunately it's negative plays that are happening. It's penalties, it's the going up in the air to block a punt instead of actually taking the ball off the foot, things like that.
It's almost like
I wonder if you give him the more reps, much like Dorrance Armstrong. As soon as Randy Gregory went away, Dorrance Armstrong kicked into the gear, and this is why he's projected to leave with or should get a lot of suitors in this free agency class. So.
Yeah, I think with Sam Williams, it's almost like a baby calf trying to get his legs right, where he's like just been born and it's trying to do too much and then it trips and falls, and then you get him back up. It's like a toddler trying to walk for the first time. He's trying everything. He's man, he is so athletic. It's crazy how athletic he is.
Yeah.
You just got to channel that. You got to be disciplined, and I think that's part of the frustration for the defensive staff is, dude, you got to channel the right time and place to be in the right time and place. Look at DeMarcus Lawrence, for instance. I mean, he was arguably one of the better run defenders and just general defenders for this defense in the last 6 games of the year because he was in the right place at the right time and he was disciplined. That's something that I think you need to be better at moving forward with Sam Williams, and maybe that comes with reps. Maybe that comes with seasoning throughout the year as well.
Yeah. And then can we all agree we don't need to draft a kicker?
I feel pretty good about our kicker.
You're talking about my reasons to be positive. It started off with him, so there we go.
That's one reason to be positive. He had a heck of a year.
Ironically, I own a number 17 jersey as well, so
that's awesome. You need to get the name changed on the back from Meredith to Aubrey.
Put it this way, I once said that about a Des Bryant jersey when CeeDee Lamb got drafted to Brad Sham, and he almost disowned me, mate. So don't let him hear you say that.
Brad Sham said that?
He was like, don't you ever say that. And I was like, okay, Brad, I'll buy a new one.
Wow.
He was like, you're better than that, Mike. I was like, okay, I'm sorry. I don't want to upset the great Brad.
That's awesome. Good stuff.
All right. But yeah, there we go, mate. Well, thank you very much for joining. I know you've had a busy day and there's a lot been going on and press conferences and writing articles and all the rest of it. So we will let you get back to it. And good luck as well with your triplets that are on the way.
Yes. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you guys. I'm gonna need you guys to come back overseas and make sure that you're free for babysitting duty. So, just let me know whenever y'all are free, and I'll drop them off at the hotel. We'll make it happen.
Don't ever offer us to come over your house because it'll just turn into a party. We'll just bring lots of beers, and you just be like, "Okay, this was a bad mistake."
Yep. Dude, that sounds awesome. I don't know what you're talking about. I need some of that. I need some of the extra beers. I've honestly, I was thinking about cracking open the scotch you had I need to get
I was just about to say that's gonna help you in the small hours when you're up feeding. Just make sure that you put the right bottle to the baby.
Lauren, it's really interesting. I'm gonna share this with you just because you were the one that handed that to me. I know all of you guys played a part in that bottle. So Thanksgiving and Christmas, my dad came over and we hosted Christmas for the first time as a family. And we just bought our brand new house and we're kind of getting everything set up. And my wife, of course, is pregnant. She's doing her best moving around. And my dad's not a drinker, like, at all. He never drinks, period. He doesn't drink beer, really. If he does, it's like a dark beer and it's like 1 or 2, and he's just kind of just drinking it socially, you know? And he really doesn't crack into the liquor a whole lot. And I brought out that bottle and his eyes lit up and he was like, whoa. He's like, that's beautiful. And I told him the story behind it. I told him that you guys were over there and got the bottle of scotch and I was like, you want to try it? And he was like, hell yeah, I want to try it. Let's crack that thing open. And I was like, all right, sounds good. So my dad, who's not a big drinker, we've shared maybe just a couple drinks along the way. We more so share food and sports and entertainment sort of memories. We cracked it open and poured it and he was like, whoa. He's like, this is the best whiskey I've ever had. And I was like, yeah, that's awesome. I was like, that's cool. So we got to drink a couple glasses and just kind of enjoy it. So I appreciate you guys very much for not only the sentiment, but setting up an opportunity to share some fun back and forth with my dad.
I'll make sure when we're out in 2025, I bring another couple of bottles. So.
Hey,
this time it's a case, not a bottle.
Hey, all right. Now, if that's the case, you got to come over and we got to crack into them. That's going to change things.
All right. Yeah. Well, you've got to make sure you got plenty of ice then.
Yeah. Lots
of we could even if we're we could. It could be an extended wet in the baby's head, and we'll have whiskey and cigars.
I'm in. Let's make it happen, guys. Let's make it happen. Thanks for having me as always. Let me know if you ever need anything, and you guys keep on rolling out there, okay?
No worries. Yep. Thank you for everything, Kyle. I'm going to speak to you again, bro.
Thanks, everybody. See y'all.
Nice one, man.
Cheers.
The great Kyle Yeoman's joining us. Yeah, so we'll get some more guests as we go through this. We'll get some to do some. We will try and get one to come in. I almost gave the name away to do a mock draft with us, so that will be interesting. It's a name you know, so
yeah.
But we will get him to come and join us, and we will do that. But before we get out of here, let's pay the bills. Old Mr. Loney, you're on paying bill duty. Off you go.
Okay, so obviously season's over, but if you're beginning to start thinking about, you've got that hunger for game action again, make sure that you book for Cowboys Experience for the ultimate game tickets, stadium tours, meet and greets. Get to meet guys like Micah Parsons, Jay Novacek, Drew Pearson, Juanway Thomas, just
Sam Williams.
Sam Williams. The whole atmosphere that day that we were there was just absolutely fantastic. Make sure you book with Cowboys Experience and use the promo code UK Cowboys. And if you do, you'll get some free stuff. And we're not just talking little trinkets. We're talking good stuff as well.
We only supply the good stuff. That's why people come here. So we ain't messing around. So you did see the video. As I say, after the Super Bowl, keep an eye on our social media because you will see some more information on what's coming. And trust me, with what we put together the last time, this one's going to be even bigger and better. We just add to it each year, guys. So make sure as well you have a nice weekend. You stay safe out there. We will be back on Tuesday where we do the prospect project and we will be looking at some prospects. Probably start with the linebacker position, maybe offensive line. Let's see how things go. But I started with the first word. So Lorne is kicking us off with the last word. Stay safe, everybody. Have a great weekend. Hit it with it, Lorne.
Stay safe, everybody. Enjoy the weekend. Enjoy 49ers screwing the pooch and the Lions going to the Super Bowl.